April 24, 1945. Edsall-class destroyer USS Flaherty vigilantly patrolled the perilous North Atlantic on the hunt for a horde of deadly German U-boats. Under the codename Operation Teardrop, she formed part of a 24-vessel barrier force whose mission was not only to stop the Nazi submarines from torpedoing crucial Allied supply ships, but to prevent a much more terrifying scenario, a devastating U-boat-based missile attack on the mainland United States itself. As Flaherty roved the vast ocean, suddenly her radio crackled to life with alarming news. Fellow destroyer USS Frederick C. Davis had been hit by a German acoustic homing torpedo, and things didn't look good. Without wasting a moment, Flaherty dashed through the waves as quickly as she could toward the floundering Davis, determined to save as many souls as possible. Arriving within minutes, Flaherty was met with a scene of utter chaos and destruction. Davis had broken in two and was rapidly succumbing to the depths as her unfortunate crew fought for their lives among the wreckage and oil slicks. Flaherty's men managed to haul 3 survivors from the frigid waters before her life-saving mission was abruptly interrupted by an urgent message from her sonar operator. The attack's wily perpetrator was still lurking nearby. With other Allied ships taking over rescue responsibilities, Flaherty was free to focus on her new objective: revenge. The seeds of Operation Teardrop had been sown in the final months of 1944, when Allied forces received intelligence suggesting the German Kriegsmarine might target American cities on the eastern seaboard, using submarines to launch V-1 flying bombs. Also known as the Buzz Bomb, the V-1 used a pulse jet to fly for over 180 miles before hitting its target. Along with the V-2 rocket, capable of reaching the edge of space before descending towards its target at supersonic speeds, it was used to great effect in attacks on London and other Western European cities. While being interrogated by the FBI in September of that year, captured Nazi spy Oskar Mantel had indicated that the Germans were fitting out U-boats with such weaponry, meaning that the United States, previously out of range, could now also fall victim. Concerned, the Allies set about investigating if there could be any truth to his claims. While photos of odd U-boat modifications were determined by U.S. 10th Fleet analysts to be for loading torpedoes rather than missiles, and the British Admiralty dismissed suggestions that the Germans would invest their dwindling resources in the creation of V-1 armed submarines, the rumors refused to go away. By the end of the year, fears of a submarine-based attack on the mainland U.S. had intensified. On December 10th, New York City Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia publicly suggested that New York could soon fall victim to German long-range rockets. The media furor around the issue further increased later that month, when information gleaned from questioning of additional Nazi spies seemed to support Mayor LaGuardia's statement. While the Department of War advised President Franklin D. Roosevelt that the threat was being blown out of proportion, the U.S. Navy did not concur and began developing a defense plan for the East Coast. Originally known as Operation Bumblebee, but soon renamed Operation Teardrop, the strategy would involve 2 sizable naval task forces based out of Naval Station Argentia in Newfoundland, acting as a barrier in the mid-Atlantic to protect the East Coast from potential attacks by German submarines, such as the new state-of-the-art Type 21. The plan was in place by January 6, 1945. 2 days later, Vice Admiral Jonas H. Ingram of the Atlantic Fleet briefed the press, alerting them to the potential risk of missile strikes and revealing the assembly of a substantial force aimed at neutralizing threats from sea-based missile platforms. The same month, Nazi Minister of Armaments and War Production Albert Speer announced that German V-1 flying bombs and V-2 rockets would fall on New York by February 1, 1945, leading to further unease in the United States. Though Speer's promise was not fulfilled, it cemented the Navy's belief that the possibility of such an attack was growing. In March, the Allies used knowledge gained from captured Enigma machines to decode top-secret German communications from German Admiral Gott, revealing that 6 Type 9 U-boats, designated as the Gruppe Seewolf, or Seawolf Group, had been deployed from Nazi-occupied Norway to, quote, attack targets in American coastal zone. Soon after, another message was intercepted, ordering U-873 to head toward the United States. The U-boat's captain, Friedrich Steinhoff, was the brother of a scientist at the notorious Peenemünde Research Station and had undertaken submerged rocket trials with his previous submarine, U-511. Based on this intelligence, Vice Admiral Ingram and the U.S. 10th Fleet believed there to be a strong chance that Seawolf Group could be planning a missile attack on the eastern seaboard. The time had come to launch Operation Teardrop. Between March 25th and 27th, the first barrier force, including the escort carriers USS Mission Bay and Croatan, along with 20 destroyer escorts, left Hampton Roads. After refueling in Argentia, they grouped east of Cape Race by April 11th. a 120-mile defensive line was formed by 12 destroyer escorts, while the carriers, each flanked by 4 destroyer escorts, were positioned west of this line. Meanwhile, U-Boat Command ordered Seawolf Group to attack Allied shipping, assigning them specific locations where they believed they would find their targets. Not only did the German submarines find nothing, as the Allies had rerouted their convoys further south, but the interception of these messages gave away the U-boats' positions. On April 15th, as the clock neared midnight, the Edsall-class destroyer USS Stanton caught the faint blip of U-1235 on its radar, lurking about 500 miles north of Flores Island. With her prey in her sights, Stanton unleashed her Hedgehog anti-submarine mortar, yet the U-boat dove deep, vanishing into the abyss. But U-1235 wouldn't be able to hide for long. With help from USS Frost, Stanton was soon able to use sonar to track down the elusive submarine, launching 3 further Hedgehog attacks. The last of these was a direct hit, sinking U-1235 with no survivors. To avoid a similar fate, nearby U-880 attempted to escape the danger zone on the surface. However, Frost had caught the U-boat on her radar and was not about to let her get away. Lighting up the night sky with star shells and spotlights to improve visibility, the destroyer escort let rip a powerful attack with Bofor's 40mm guns, forcing the enemy submarine to submerge. Stanton and Frost continued the chase with sonar, their Hedgehog mortars blasting out a relentless barrage. After a nearly 2-hour pursuit, Stanton delivered the final blow, eliminating a U-boat along with her entire crew for the second time that night. On both occasions, the crews on board the destroyers had noted huge explosions when the Hedgehogs had made their impact. They considered this to be further proof that the German submarines had to be carrying missiles, and doubled down on their efforts to stop the rest of Seawolf Group in its tracks before it could get near the United States. In the following days, this game of cat and mouse went on. Seawolf Group member U-805 twice made lucky escapes, leaving the first barrier force of Operation Teardrop without any further victories. The time had come for them to be relieved of duty by the second barrier force, comprised of the escort carriers USS Bogue and Core, accompanied by a total of 22 destroyer escorts. However, while returning to base in Argentia in the final hours of April 21st, USS Carter picked up sonar on U-518. After coaching USS Neil A. Scott for a Hedgehog attack on the U-boat, she joined in herself, making a definitive strike at 11:09 p.m. to neutralize the submarine and all personnel on board. With the second barrier force officially taking over, they implemented a distinctive naval strategy by arranging their destroyer escorts in a line, each 5 nautical miles apart across 120 miles. The USS Core was positioned at the northern end and the USS Bogue to the south. Their operation commenced at 45 degrees west longitude and systematically advanced eastward to 41 degrees west. However, the Allies were not the only ones making changes. On April 23rd, the scene shifted dramatically, and Gross Admiral Karl Dönitz issued a command that effectively disbanded Seawolf Group. Oblivious to the fact that half of the original 6 U-boats assigned to the group had already met their demise beneath the waves, he ordered the submarines to scatter and engage in solo missions along the coast of the United States. Furthermore, he instructed U-881, U-889, and U-1229, who were not part of Seawolf Group, to navigate toward the waters between New York and Cape Hatteras. Allied cryptographers managed to crack the code to the radio transmissions coordinating these movements, adding more fuel to the belief that a U-boat-based missile attack on eastern U.S. cities was imminent. With several German submarines still roaming the turbulent waters of the North Atlantic, each one a potential danger to the lives of millions of American citizens, Operation Teardrop's mission was far from complete. On April 24th, the day after Dönitz ordered the U-boats to change course, USS Frederick C. Davis picked up U-546 using sonar. Davis, a destroyer in Core's escort group, had earned a Navy unit commendation and the nickname Fightin' Freddy for her impressive feat of shooting down 13 German aircraft during the landings at Anzio, Italy the previous year. With her target at 2,000 yards and her guns and Hedgehog projectors ready for action, Davis prepared to strike. However, noise from her own Foxer acoustic torpedo countermeasure system interfered with the contact. Taking advantage of this situation, U-546 seized the moment to discharge a T-5 acoustic torpedo from 650 yards, tearing a hole in the destroyer's port side in the forward engineering spaces. The impact was catastrophic, claiming the lives of a large number of officers and crew members as the ship broke in half and began descending into the deep. Witnessing Davis meet her tragic fate, Screen Commander RFS Hall wasted no time in sending destroyer escorts USS Hayter and Nutzer to pursue U-546, while USS Flaherty tried to rescue survivors. However, this plan would soon change when Flaherty became the first one to locate the U-boat. As Hayter took over the life-saving mission with assistance from Allied aircraft, Flaherty began her hunt. Chasing down the German submarine like a shark pursuing its next meal, she let off a series of hedgehog blasts, yet each one narrowly missed. It seemed U-546 was destined to make an escape, but the ships of Operation Teardrop had other ideas. More and more destroyers joined Flaherty and Nutzer in their mission to avenge the sinking of Davis. With 9 Operation Teardrop vessels hot on her tail, U-546 was subjected to a relentless barrage of hedgehog attacks, and to make matters worse, sustaining damage meant she was unable to use her hydrophone, rendering her effectively blind. A series of debilitating blows left the U-boat with little choice but to take the fight to the surface. Breaking through the surface of the waves, U-546 got Flaherty in her sights, one last desperate chance to turn the tide of the battle. Letting rip a powerful torpedo, the U-boat's crew held their breaths as it zoomed toward the target. But when it failed to meet its mark, they knew the game was well and truly up. USS Pillsbury, Keith, Nutzer, and Varian circled around the German submarine, finishing her off with an enormous onslaught of gunfire. As U-546 gradually upended and began to sink, Commander Hall ordered the destroyers to cease fire and to pull the beleaguered German sailors from the water. Before long, 32 prisoners, including the submarine's commander, Captain Lieutenant Paul Just, had been taken and were on their way to Argentia for questioning. Upon arrival on April 27th, the commanding officer, first officer, and 6 crew members recognized as specialists were immediately isolated. They faced grueling solitary confinement, intense physical exertion, and further violence. Lieutenant Commander Leonard A. Meyer, who had escorted these prisoners aboard the Varian, strongly objected to that treatment. The following day, 2 interrogators arrived from Washington, one in a Navy captain's uniform, even though he was more likely a civilian operative. Despite their efforts, they found the Germans unwaveringly tight-lipped, refusing even to give up details that the Allies had already deciphered from Enigma codes. On April 30th, Captain Lieutenant Just underwent what 10th Fleet records referred to as a shock interrogation. While the details of this process remain a mystery, it is known that Just was left unconscious for a time as a result. The prisoners were later moved to Fort Hunt for further questioning, enduring more physical abuse. Post-war, the records at Fort Hunt were destroyed, forever hiding the truth of what really happened. In any case, as none of the submarines were armed with any type of missiles or rockets, the Allies realized that their fears had been blown out of proportion. The Germans had no plans for a submarine-based missile attack on American soil. Meanwhile, the 2nd Barrier Force maintained a strong presence in the North Atlantic, resolute in their U-boat hunting mission. On May 5th, USS Farquhar detected U-881 as it attempted to sneak through the barrier line, bombarding the submarine with depth charges, which sent her and her crew to a watery grave on the ocean floor, the final U-boat to be sunk by the U.S. Navy during World War II. 2 days later, Nazi Germany surrendered, bringing an end to the war and Operation Teardrop, as the remaining U-boats, U-234, U-805, U-858, and U-1228, handed themselves in. While the Navy's primary motivation for launching the operation proved to be misguided, and the treatment of the captured German crewmen at the hands of American interrogators continues to generate debate, there's little doubt that Teardrop demonstrated the power of coordinated hunter tactics and effective use of intelligence, playing a key part in bringing the war in the Atlantic to a close.